Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to show you how to make two different spiral shirts. One is a rainbow spiral and the other is a rainbow spiral with black accents. Both of the shirts have been washed and dried, and then I soaked each of them in a soda ash solution for at least 20 to 30 minutes. Then I wrung them out, and so they're just barely damp. I've also turned the shirts inside out. The first spiral that I'm going to tie is the rainbow spiral. You can fold a spiral several different ways. For this one, I'm going to pinch an area of the shirt where I'd like the center of the spiral to be and begin twisting it with my hand. As I'm turning the shirt one direction, I'm using my other hand to form some folds in the shirt. I'm trying to keep the folds tight as I spiral this shirt. Once I have the shirt folded, I'm going to use some rubber bands to hold the folds in place. For this shirt, I'm going to use 3 rubber bands, and I'm also going to use these rubber bands as guidelines for where to apply the dye. So you will see me keep adjusting them until I have them spaced out the way I want them. The second shirt that I'm going to tie is the rainbow spiral with the black accents. For this one, I'm going to show you how to do this fold using a fork. I've taken a regular kitchen fork that's pretty dull, it doesn't have really sharp tines, and I'm finding the area on the shirt where I'd like to begin the spiral and gently going to turn the fork one direction while I use my other hand and form additional folds in the shirt. I personally find using a fork to begin the spiral a little bit easier than pinching the fabric to start the spiral. It's just a personal preference thing though. Either one works perfectly fine. That's why I showed each of these methods. Here again, I'm going to use the rubber bands to hold the folds in place and also as guidelines for where to apply the dye. Whenever I dye a spiral, I like to take all the colors through the center of the spiral or close to the center of the spiral. So I'm trying to have all of my rubber bands intersect in the middle of the spiral. I'm going to show you how to dye the rainbow spirals using the 3 primary colors of tie-dye, which are yellow, fuchsia, and turquoise. I'm using dye colors from Dharma Trading Company, and so I'm going to mix the dye according to their instructions. In each of the containers, I've already added my dye powder, a little bit of urea, and the distilled water. I use urea because I live in a hot climate, and so the urea helps keep the shirt from drying out while it's processing. It also helps to get the dye into solution. However, if you don't have urea, that's perfectly fine to leave that out. I also use distilled water just simply because I have hard water where I live, and so for me, I prefer to use the distilled water to mix my dyes. I've found that it's easier to either use a milk frother or an immersion blender to mix the dyes. I'm using a milk frother, and it works perfectly for small amounts of dye. If you want a more in-depth explanation for how I mix my dye, there's a link down below this video in the description for another video which shows exactly how I mix my dye. After I have the dyes mixed, I'm going to use a funnel and transfer the dyes to my dye bottles. I purchased these dye bottles from Dharma Trading Company, and they each hold 8 ounces of dye. Today, I'm mixing 12 ounces of each of the colored dyes, and I'm going to mix 8 ounces of the black dye. Dharma's primary colors are lemon yellow, fuchsia, and turquoise. And then for the black today, I'm going to use raven black. I'm showing you how I mix up the dye that I use. I use a Procyon fiber reactive dye, which I purchased from Dharma Trading Company. I purchased the same kind of dye from several other suppliers as well, but for this video, I've only used colors from Dharma Trading Company. If you're using a kit or another form of dye, you're going to need to read the instructions for your dye to know exactly how to use it properly. Some of the dyes go ahead and add soda ash directly to the dye bottles, and so if that's the case for your dye, you're going to need to use that dye fairly soon after you add the water. If you're a beginner and would like to purchase a kit, some of the professional dye companies that I use sell kits. These kits contain the professional dyes and will give you really good results if you follow the instructions properly. I'll leave links down below for where you can purchase the kits from companies like Dharma Trading Company, Grateful Dyes, and Pro Chemical and Dye. There are also links below to a lot of the other products that you see me using in this video and other tie-dye videos. I've just tied my shirts, and so they're still partially damp. If you watch a lot of my videos, you know most of the time I go ahead and allow the shirts to dry, but it's not necessary for a design like a spiral. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the dye to the shirts while they're damp. Now that the dye colors are mixed, let's go ahead and start applying the dye to the shirts. I'm going to begin applying color to the shirt that's going to be just a rainbow spiral. I'm beginning with fuchsia, and I'm adding it to one of the pie sections on the shirt. When I added the 3 rubber bands, it divided the shirt into 6 sections. I'm going to add the fuchsia to one of those sections. When I apply color to the center of the shirt or the center of the spiral, I try to add very little color to that area. If I add too much color to the center of the spiral, where all of the colors mix, it'll make the center of the spiral kind of muddy. And I want it to stay bright, so I'm going to barely add color to the center. Now I'm going to add lemon yellow to the next section. If you'll notice, part of the fuchsia had already started to creep over into this yellow area. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and add the yellow over the top, and where those 2 colors mix, it's going to make orange. The next section is going to be turquoise, and here again, I'm going to go right over the top of that yellow with the turquoise, making green in that area. Now I'm going to add another section of fuchsia, and where the fuchsia and the turquoise blend together, it will make purple. I'm adding another section of lemon yellow. And the final section is going to be turquoise. I'd like a little bit larger section of purple, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the fuchsia over the top of part of the turquoise to make a larger purple stripe. Now I'm going to gently turn the shirt over and repeat the same color pattern on the back side. I'm going to do a little bit of touch up on the shirt because I want to make sure I have really good color saturation. I personally like for most of my tie-dye shirts to have very little white left. There are some designs where I like to leave white, and most of those I intentionally leave the white. On a shirt like this though, I pretty much want most of the shirt to be colored. I'm going to use one of my dye spoons and check some of the folds to make sure that the color has gone all the way through the shirt. I see a couple areas where I need to go ahead and add some more dye. Now that I'm finished applying the dye to that shirt, let's do the one with the black accents. For this shirt, I only want to make one area of each of the primary colors. So I'm beginning with fuchsia and I'm adding it to two of the sections. Don't forget to apply color to the sides of the shirt. You want to make sure the entire shirt gets well saturated. The next color is lemon yellow. And here again, I'm going to apply that to two of the pie sections. So on the first shirt, it has two smaller sections of each color, and this shirt will have one larger section of each color. You can make as many sections on a shirt as you want to. That's one of the fun things about tie-dye is you can just make it your own and do whatever you would like to. In the final section, I'm adding turquoise. For reference sake, the shirt that is a rainbow only is an adult size large. And the shirt that has the black accents is an adult size medium. I used probably about 6 ounces of each of the colored dyes on both of these shirts combined. But like I mentioned earlier, I don't really like a lot of white left on this shirt, so I tend to use quite a bit more dye than I probably really need to. I think I used probably anywhere from 2 to 3 ounces of the black dye on the back side of this shirt. When I turn the shirt over, you can see that the yellow is already starting to come through onto the back side. But I'm not seeing very much of the turquoise or the fuchsia. I'm a little concerned that the center of the shirt isn't going to be saturated very well if I don't add just a little bit more of both of those colors. So I'm going to do just a little bit of touch-up before I turn the shirt over and apply dye to the back. I got a little spot of blue onto my yellow, so I'm going to wipe my rack down before I turn the shirt over. Now I'm going to apply the raven black to the back side of the shirt. I want to cover up all of the white areas on the back of the shirt, but I don't want to oversaturate. If I oversaturate with the black, the color will go through to the front side and overtake all of the fuchsia, yellow, and turquoise that I added. Just like with the other colors, I'm adding very little color to the center of the spiral. Now to process the shirt, I'm going to turn the shirt back over and leave the colored sides up. To allow the shirts to process, I'm going to put them inside of a container that's the same as this dyeing container, but I've cut the rack down to fit inside, and I'm going to place the shirts on top of the rack and then put the lid on top of this plastic container. That will help keep the shirts from drying out. It's a warm day today, so I'm going to put the shirts outside for a little while and allow them to process in the heat. Wherever you process your shirt, it needs to be at least 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The shirts need to be where it's warm for the dye to properly bond with the fabric. After 24 hours, I took the shirts to my utility sink and I began rinsing them. I'm starting with the shirt that's just a rainbow, and I'm beginning rinsing the shirt with cold water. I rinse the shirt in cold water to get out any of the soda ash that's left in the shirt. I'm going to go ahead and untie the shirt and warm the water up to hot. The hot water will help flush out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the shirt. Instead of continuing to rinse for a long time, I'm going to run some hot water in my sink, add a little splash of Blue Dawn dish detergent, and place the shirt inside of the sink. I'm going to soak the shirt until the water cools off, and then I'm going to change the water out and continue the soaking process until the water is almost clear. I think that it's easier to go ahead and soak the shirts instead of just continuing to rinse for a long time. Some colors are a little bit more difficult to rinse out than other colors, and so it really saves on water and time to just go ahead and soak them. This is the rainbow spiral with the black accents. I'm going to do the same rinse process. I'm beginning in cold, and then I'm going to gradually warm the water up to hot. After I rinsed this shirt for a while, I went ahead and soaked it in hot water as well. After the water was almost clear for both of the shirts, I took them and put them in my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent, and I washed them in a hot cycle. After I washed and dried the shirts, this is what they look like. So what do you guys think about the way the shirts turned out? Let's compare the two. I put them side by side so we can see how they both look next to each other. The shirt on the left is the one that's the rainbow only, where we did 2 sections of each color. So you can see there are 2 spirals of the fuchsia, 2 of the turquoise, and 2 of the yellow. The one on the right that has the dark accents only has 1 spiral of each of those colors. Then of course the shirt on the right is the one that we put the black on the back, so it has the black accents on both the front and the back of the shirt. When we look a little bit closer at the rainbow only shirt, you can see where the primary colors of fuchsia, yellow, and turquoise mixed to make the secondary colors of green, orange, and purple. We got really good color saturation on this shirt as well because there's very little white left. On the black accent shirt, we had the same color mixing, but of course we have the addition of the black accents. I always think that the black accents add a lot to the shirt. They really make it stand out. So what do you guys think? Do you like these shirts? Do you have a favorite? I think when you mention tie-dye, a rainbow spiral is one of the designs that pops into most people's heads. And overall, it seems to be one of the more popular designs. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.